All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lucas Axemaker. Please don't butcher it. All right. That's at least one bad joke I'll have for today.
Yeah.
But hopefully no one will be offended. I'm not. Don't worry about it. So today we're here to talk all about procrastination. Raise your hand if you have put something off or decided not to do something. Everyone, and I mean everyone, at some time, place, or circumstance has procrastinated. So this is nothing new, but it's also something that you can learn to kind of combat and learn to better deal with so it doesn't become too overwhelming. There is a multitude of types of procrastinators. We have the perfectionists. I myself fit into that category for many years growing up. I didn't want to do it unless I thought I could do it 100% correct. Postponers. I think there are plenty of those. I'll get to it later. Politicians. People who are wanting to talk, and as much as anything, they want to please and get approval from others. Punishers, those are people who are over hypercritical of themselves. And I think that is also very common with most of us people. Because unfortunately, we live in a society with a lot of expectations that are a lot of times unreal. Why do students, or really why does anyone procrastinate? Does anyone have any initial thoughts?
I just don't want to do it.
Okay.
Why do what you do today when you could do it tomorrow?
Exactly. So some of the big ones, fear of failure. Like I said, that kind of ties back into wanting to be a perfectionist. Fear of success. What? Being afraid to succeed? Yeah, because when you succeed, you get a little bit more attention on you, and a lot of people don't want that added attention.
In the chat, we have knowing that it's difficult may be too hard. That's a level of fear of failure.
Yes. Yep. Sometimes it's easier to be like, well, if I don't do it, why do it at all? This talks about kind of a shortage or lack of energy, which ties into even your energy level, your motivation, your desire. Exactly. I think, like you mentioned in the front here, just not feeling like you want to do it. And this is a big one, because this holds so true with everything in life and academics, but just having a poor level of organization of yourself, of your materials, of your notes, of your everything for classes. So, how can we break this pattern? First of all, we need to be able to prioritize what we're doing, prioritize our time, prioritize what's important. Because if we just kind of try to go through the day or go through our academics or anything without something of a plan and a way to prioritize things, then everything's all over the place and you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. Control impulsiveness. And this is tricky because we as humans, especially those with lives and families and things, we find ourselves jumping around. It happens, but when we're constantly bouncing around from one thing to another, it's so hard to stay focused and to get anywhere on any one task. And that includes our academics. When you're starting to get yourself in order and organized, don't try to do more than you can, because I know plenty of people. Prime example is people that this time of year, what happens? We're heading into the winter, we're heading into the holidays, and what does everyone do often with the holidays and the New Year's? They have resolutions. And what do we do with resolutions? So many people make this big grand resolution. One of the big ones is, I'm gonna work out. But then, and they say that, and it's great, but they're not only gonna do it, but when they start doing that, they decide they're gonna go work out, they're gonna go to the gym, and they're gonna do it 7 days a week. How long are they? They may last a week, maybe 2 weeks. They might even get to a month, but because they've put so much on their plate, they're not gonna be able to sustain that. And then what's gonna happen?
Crash.
You're gonna crash and burn, and all of a
And then
sudden.
you feel horrible.
Exactly, exactly. So we can't do that to ourselves. As humans, we do have limits, and we need to find a happy balance, a happy medium. Absolutely, okay. Within your classes, know which assignments, tasks, and classes are most important. How do you do this? Well, you're not a mind reader, but you have lots of information presented to you up front, especially with your syllabuses and your assignments. The more you can lay out up front, the better. And this is very important. Talk with your teachers. They're not just there for you to listen to and to see everything that they've kind of posted, since now we're so digital and we have everything on these cool little D2L accounts. Oh, this is a big one. From the beginning, know when things are due. Okay, lay that out right away, so things don't come as a surprise.
I do that.
I put the syllabus in my planner.
It is like one of the best things you can always do is to lay everything out in the beginning. Because otherwise, as more goes on and you move further into the semester and more things come up, if you're trying to then backtrack and what was due and when was due and is this due, and yeah, then you end up with lots of surprises, and it's never a fun feeling when you're like, what? This is due today? What is due? And it's due when? Or it's past due? Then all of a sudden you have anxiety, stress, and other things to levels that are no fun. Okay? Manage your commitments and set limitations. In other words, well, what's the saying? Don't bite off more than you can chew, but don't try to plan or commit to doing more than you honestly can. First of all, as a student, hopefully, just like we talked about prioritizing things, prioritize your classes, your academics. Set that very high in your list of priorities. That might mean at times you have to say no to going out with a bunch of friends on a Friday night, on a weeknight, on whatever, or doing other things because, your academics, should be a top priority. Because if they're not, and if they fall further and further down the list of importance, then they get forgotten. But then you're like, well, I'm here and I got to this and I got to that. And then you're just playing catch up again. And finally, as with anything, never try to do everything all by yourself. This sounds simple and straightforward, but ask for help. Use people, use resources. And us with ACC, one of the things I love most about this school is there's so many people and so many resources for everything that you're doing. And the biggest thing is a lot of people are afraid to ask for help, or they just don't realize that there's all these tools and resources out there. Everyone has to write stuff for classes. You might or might not be good or comfortable with this, but there are people. We have a writing center in the library. They strictly focus on helping you with all your writing. Myself, I come from the Academic Support Center. I am one of a multitude of tutors that we have. But I myself and the other tutors, we're not just there to help students with a couple classes, but just within the the means and the methods and everything for how you learn, how you study, how you organize. And I myself, the writing center is great, but anytime you're writing anything, never just be like, I wrote it, I this, I that, let me, okay, turn it in. No. Have classmates, have a tutor, have the writing center, have anyone that you know or can reach out to, read through and look over what you've done. They're just an extra set of eyes and an extra person to provide feedback on what you're doing. And there is nothing wrong with that. No one, no matter who they are, knows everything. And if any of you know someone who does, I'm going to tell you that that person doesn't exist. The best people are those that use the other people and resources out there. Because the more people you use and connect with, it broadens your network, but more than anything, it gives you access to so much more information and insight. So don't hesitate to use that. Now, what I want to move into next.
In the chat, we had Linda give the idea of time blocking to reduce tendency to put everything else until the last minute, or letting your support system know your commitment so you're not tempted to put off your responsibilities in lieu of fun.
Wonderful. And now a little something for a little bit of engagement with everyone here. We're going to talk about the two types of learning. Well, two types. There's many types of learning, but we're going to focus on active learning versus passive learning. Most people that are having some struggles with procrastination and other things are going to fall into that second category, being very passive in what they're doing. So we're going to go through a list and we're going to identify something. Basically, what's the active type of learning in an example, and what is the passive? So first of all, we will start with, up here, we got active. Please forgive me. I'm left-handed if I smear anything. And passive. So this one's great because today's a prime example. The last 3 days, the weather has been gray, has been gloomy, has been this and that. Kind of has made everyone feel like, I just want to stay inside, I just want to stay cozy. That's great, but what is far better than that? Let's get outside. So be active, literally, and outdoors. When you are outside, especially days like today, we've got this beautiful thing called the sun that's out there. And the sun is wonderful for you. And it's a whole lot better than the alternative. But we are also now in this world where it's so easy to find ourselves kind of pulled away from others in the outside world. And how does that happen? We're kind of using it with this presentation today, but we live in a world that is overwhelmed with technology. And that means that you have smartphones, tablets, even little game pads and stuff. Like, even look at a lot of the little kids nowadays. Are they outside running around and playing? That's all I did as a kid growing up. And so the opposite is all that technology. iPads. Etc. Okay, let's be a lot more active. Let's remember there's this great big world out there. Let's get outside, get fresh air, get exercise, even within your studies. It is absolutely okay. Don't close yourself into a room with no windows and light and try to do your academics all day. Get some fresh air. Even take your academics and stuff outside whenever you can.
Whenever I get stuck on something, I make myself walk around the block.
That's wonderful.
Because it makes me reset.
Yes. Okay. All right, the next one, talking about, say, my tummy just grumbled, so it must have known. We all get hungry, we all have to eat. So in terms of kind of food, what do we think would be the active engagement with food?
Okay.
Absolutely. So cooking, making your own food, you're actively engaged in it. Well, what's going to be the passive?
Drive-through.
What was that?
Drive-through.
Drive-through, fast food, ordering a pizza, all these things that are quick and easy and convenient, but they're very passive, they're very lazy. Okay, our next one. Ooh, okay. I'm guessing everyone here does this, but we all have keys. Keys are for a primary of things, and what are these kind of keys that have, okay, things to get you inside an automobile, a vehicle, okay? In terms of a vehicle, what would be the active mode? What would be active related to a vehicle?
Turning the key.
Physically driving the vehicle.
Okay.
So you're the driver, you're driving. Well, what's going to be the more passive role? Yep, you're sitting in the back seat, where the kids are all the time. Well, they're also they can be a distraction, but yes, passenger. And think about it though, when you're a passenger, it's so easy to be like disconnected with everything because you're just there, you're going through the motions, you might nod off. You might not even be aware of what's going on as you're driving places.
Kind of the point of being a passenger.
Yeah, there is a reason we want that at times. But I can tell you, sometimes as a driver, you've got a vehicle full of people, and you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden, everyone in your vehicle they're checked out. And maybe they're not only checked out from the world because they're not engaged, but they're probably also passively involved with a tablet or a game or so they are absolutely disconnected now. We do all need that separation at times, but we can't have it at all times, and especially with life and learning and engagement. If we step away and are passive too often, you're missing out on so much. So next, okay, yes, I like this one. One of the best things I like to do, not only on vacation, but I do it every night, is nowadays, there's nothing that there's compared. We don't have one in here, but you're able to open something up and do what? Sit down. You can do it in your bed, on the couch, but to like read a book. And now in this wonderful day and age, I do like it. I like the traditional book, but I also like at night, I can still read my digital book, a Kindle, and I don't need a nightlight or anything else on to disturb or disrupt anyone else. So, but yeah, I still have at least hundreds of books that I won't get rid of but reading a book, that's very active. What do we think is the opposite of that? And so many of us as people do a lot of this, especially in the evenings.
Audiobook?
Everyone sits down on the couch.
News?
Yep, news, television, all that stuff. Do you really have to be that engaged for that? No. It's pretty easy to do. So TV, movies. But yes, once again, a pretty passive activity. Excellent. Okay, we live in a world of sounds. What's something that we all get involved with? Yes, absolutely. So a little something called organized sounds or rhythms and stuff like that. Music. So how can we be actively involved in music?
Playing it.
Playing an instrument or maybe singing if you're so inclined. I will admit, yes, I will sing in my car. I will personally do it anywhere because I enjoy it. That's one of the things when I was growing up that helped me open up so much more to the world. I got involved in choir in high school. Sure, I was nervous as all we wanted to what. But the first choir, it was an all guys choir. We were about having fun first, not even concerned about being the best singers in the world. But by getting up on a stage and being able to actively and be involved in that music and just the entertainment and the everything else, very cool. So singing, playing an instrument. And then the opposite. Even just sitting there and passively listening to music. Okay, just a couple more. Yes. So something that often does involve some music and singing and choreography and stuff. What does Broadway make you think of?
Oh. I was gonna say the Lion King, so.
Yeah, but Broadway is basically, it involves acting on a stage and stuff like that. So to be actively engaged, we can actively participate. Like, and this was something that I never got to do, but my older brother growing up, he first was involved kind of passively behind the scenes in plays and musical at his school. And then he started to get this urge and itch to be more involved. And then he did. He eventually worked up the courage and everything else and tried out and got first just a simple role. And then later on, a much more involved role in a play and stuff. But he was actively then involved in these plays and musical, whereas initially he was working backstage or just like everyone else in the audience was just watching it. But to be more actively engaged in it, wow. The more engaged and involved you are with anything, the more you're gonna enjoy it, and the more you're gonna understand and be so much more passionate about it. And so, yeah, acting. Whereas just, yeah, going to a play. And then just a couple more. Ooh, this is a good one. Tying things back to ACC. And we'll definitely take thoughts from everyone in our audience. How can we be more actively involved at ACC? Clubs, yes. Any other ideas?
Work out in the gym.
Work out, yeah. Connect with advisors, going to the library. There are clubs, there are programs, there are activities. One of the cool things is, every time we do open houses, I always sit at a table talking about a lot of the academic support services. And then, yes, there's always someone from with the clubs, and they talk about how there are clubs that already exist at ACC. Plus, if you and a couple other people have an idea for some sort of group or club, you can start it up. And that's absolutely cool. It could be anything. And I think that's great because, me and a couple people have an interest in this. All right, start up your own club. And guess what? You'll probably find other people that are interested. And I 100% believe in this. When I'm not, at the campus, this campus, I spend time here at the main campus as well as the new campus in Castle Rock. I love to be involved and engaged with people and in the community. And it's so crazy. Anyone that knows me, even I wouldn't have believed this 10, 20 years ago, but they're like, oh my gosh, Lucas, you seem to be involved in so much and seem to know so many people. That's just because I take an active, involved approach in anything that I have anything to do with or I'm interested in. And that's both at the school, what's going on, what's this, what do we have? Like I want to know as much of what's going on at the campuses, but also in the world. And I keep plenty busy, but one thing that I've now been doing for almost 15 years is on the weekends when some people are like, oh, that's my weekend, that's my downtime, spend a little time with friends and family. Pretty much every Sunday for about 9 to 10 months out of the year, I help manage and play competitive adult baseball. And it's wonderful because it's something I've enjoyed. It was the first sport I ever knew as a little kid. And more than anything, I have met so many people just by doing this sport, this activity that I love and being so involved in it. That so many of the people that I've met through that, yeah, we all love and have a passion and enjoyment for baseball, but we all do so many other things. And like I said, once again, connects me to all these different people, all these different resources, and all these different things that I wouldn't have ever been connected to and anywhere near these many people if I didn't just say, hey, here's something I enjoy, I'm gonna do it. And I encourage everyone to do that. So yes, so clubs. Yeah, the gym, just all ACC resources.
I don't know if this is ACC, but I was gonna say finding a mentor has
Yep,
catapulted me.
absolutely. And I mean, it is like, yeah, one of the things I do most, and it's just kind of been innate for me for years, is yes, supporting others. Because even when I was growing up, you know, a couple of people really took the extra time to kind of help me grow up. The person I am today is completely different than a very young, quiet, shy, and reserved person that I was, even when I was 15, 16 years old. And people that know me now are like, no way. And I'm like, I know, it's hard to believe, but it's because I have grown and opened up and, you know, having people, why don't you this? Why don't you that? Even the encouragement of some people to try some things when I was a teenager. And we all know, as teenagers, they face plenty of challenges and stuff. But yes, you know what? Why don't I try something? Why not? And you do that in life and in general. Don't worry about the what ifs or what are people gonna think. If you want to do something or you want to try something, do it. And there's even nothing wrong with trying something and finding out it's not for you, because at least you tried. And then you became knowledgeable and aware about something you weren't before. And yes, you don't have to fall in love with everything you do, but just by willing to be involved and to connect and to do a variety of things, it'll make you such a better, more well-rounded person. And it will connect and introduce you to so many people, places, and opportunities. And yeah, so that's absolutely true. So like we said, get involved, be more active, don't be passive. Yes, there's times to kind of take a break, but you don't want to be doing that the majority of your time, because then you're missing out on so much.
What would be a passive approach to ACC?
Absolutely. My best example are the students who they're like, I'm a student, and all that they do is they basically attend class. Whether it's in person or now we can have virtual classes, all they do is they attend the class and they're just there. They don't even actively participate or engage in the class or conversations. They're just kind of going through the motions. I go to class today, I sit there, I listen, and maybe they don't even, you know. And I would even say with the virtual learning, a a lot of these students are probably even ones that turn off their webcam. Because, and people, oh, but I don't want people seeing me. I just woke up, my hair. Still, turn on, be involved, be engaged, talk, look, and versus, but we all know it, we've all seen it, or you maybe even been guilty of that yourself.
I always think it's funny when they're calling their names and like, oh.
Uh-huh. But yes, like, seriously, you can't just, and I do. People are like, well, you know, I just go to class and then I either log off if it's virtual, or I just come in, go to class, and then I go home. And it's like, is that all you want? Like, there's so much more to your class as you come in. Like, talk to others in the building. And when I work in Castle Rock, it's nice that literally as they walk in the front door, those of us at the front are always, hey, hello, how are you doing? Like, we're doing everything we can to kind of encourage and get them to not be passive and just walking and staring at your feet. You all laugh, but back when I was in college the first time around, I did an observational paper. And my observational paper was centered around how many people just go through the motions and are just so closed off to the world. And I talked about people walking around and their eyes and everything are on the ground. They have no connection, no awareness, no involvement with anyone around them. You know, even some are stepping outside, this and that, but they're all to themselves and so closed off. And it was like, even in this paper, I'm like, I can't believe how many people they're here physically, but they're so passive and so basically disconnected that it's almost like they're not there. Like, you know, and even others, you could have, if you have a classroom of even 20, 25 people, and even 5 or 10 of those people are completely just keeping quiet, sitting there, you know, at the end of the class or multiple classes, even the other classmates, they might not even remember that those people were in the class because they weren't actively involved or engaged. And it's unfortunate, but yes, it's not going to be the end of the world if you talk to others. Like, it's one of the best things. And worrying about, well, what will people think and this and that. I know it's human nature, but don't do that to yourself. Like, you know, I know we live in a world where there's plenty of pressures and plenty of worries, but it's far better to live and be engaged and involved than to just close yourself off and for all intents and purposes find a corner. So yes, be involved. Now we'll just touch on some key learning styles. And as everyone hopefully knows, we don't all learn the same way, which is why part of you being a student and going to class is finding how do you best learn? Because even the best teachers in the world, depending on their class, they're going to, with more experience, kind of engage and bring in more types of students and learning styles. But you as the student, you've got to learn and identify for yourself, how do I learn best? Because there are some people out there, but I think they're in the minority who can sit there, listen to someone talk, and basically absorb everything like a sponge. Most of us need to have a more involvement in what we're doing, be more engaged, be more hands-on, be so many other things, because yes, for most classes and most classrooms, the teachers are presenting material, they're talking through stuff, they're this and that. But that alone, that presentation and the student as the audience, that alone isn't going to be enough for most students to really learn, to really engage in that. So it's, what else do I need to do? Do I need to sit here and engage with other students? That's something I encourage everyone to do. Even the person that's like, well, I don't know anyone. Even if you know, even just find one other person in the class that you can kind of talk things through. And yeah, like, it is better when you can talk and discuss things and get feedback, and everyone's like, well, is there a right or a wrong? With most discussions, it's just having an opportunity to kind of to not only think for yourself, but to speak up. So, but learning styles. So the first group we have are basically people that are very visual. Does anyone here think that they're a very visual person or a visual learner? Yeah. So we have at least a couple here. I'm not sure about online, but yes. Okay.
Ivan said for sure he is a visual learner. Linda said that discussion and verbal and visual examples helps her learn best.
Wonderful. So yes, visual. Like, that's a lot of times why, and we don't have a PowerPoint today, we don't have to, but yes, like, speaking of PowerPoints, most PowerPoints involve some visuals, right? People don't just put just words on a PowerPoint, usually. Usually there's some visuals to help tie things in and give visual examples of things. So yes, lots of people are very visual, not all people, but yes, I mean, being able to see something makes it more real versus, I know for me, yeah, I'm really good with words, but yes, I love visuals, and it's crazy, but whenever I am out driving somewhere or giving directions, I'm one of the rare people that I can describe kind of the surroundings and landmarks, but I can also tell you street names. And that's a prime example of some people, for directions, you tell them what's in the area. Oh, that building, oh, that landmark, that connects with them. Other people are, yes, very, very about the words and about the streets and this and directional and this and that. But it is. People learn and think different ways, and we need to be able to figure out what we are. So we have visual learners. We have auditory learners. So auditory, what we hear. And these sort of things, who's heard of like audio tapes? Audio tapes are great for these people. Like, these are people that it would be better for them to listen to an audiobook. Or, this is very cool, but one of the resources ACC has is accommodations for students using a program called Kurzweil. I might have said that wrong, but this program will basically read everything for an assignment, for a quiz, for a test. And this is a wonderful tool in accommodation for lots of students who they could sit there and try to read it, but really kind of struggle with that. But the ability to have things read to them by a person, by this Kurzweil program or something like that, can be so beneficial. And I know, because when I'm working at Gasserot, we do for students there. We got to be able to support them in many ways, and one of those is with their testing. And like I said, when I found out, oh my gosh, we got a student, and yeah, they just need, and at the time before they got the program up and running, oh yeah, they just need someone that can read them the questions. And it's like, wow, who would have thought that? Like even teachers for eons are like, yeah, I write out the tests, I hand them out. But yeah, some of the people can do and understand and comprehend things so much better just because they do. Their auditory senses are so important to them. So never discredit basically any of your senses or the fact that, well, I don't think most people learn this way or this or that. No, find out for you, how you learn. I like this next one because it's a cool word, and hopefully people know what it means, but kinesthetic learning. Does anyone know what that relates to?
Doing.
What did you say?
Doing.
Active, motion, movement. And I love this because, yeah, my first degree I earned many years ago was in health and exercise science. And everything with that and everything deals with movement, motion, everything like that. So I 100% know and believe in the power of movement. And yes, like you do need to move. And so certain people, oh, what are they doing? Can they not sit still? That might actually, they need, certain people need movement. And I am one of those people. Friends, family, and otherwise that know me, if I go even a couple of days without being able to get some exercise, some movement, some walking, some sports, some something, oh my gosh, it is, the struggle is real. And for me, unfortunately, it was very much reminded within the past couple of years when the world of COVID hit, and it's like, hello, everybody. Go be safe, go stay in your homes. And I'm like, I know we need to do what's safe and right, but I still wanted and needed my movement, my exercise. And it's just like we have a puppy at home. Try having a puppy and try telling this puppy that you're not gonna go for a walk. Or in the case of our puppy, he gets 2 walks a day. And he does, he wants that, he needs that, but I understand because I'm the same way. So the power of movement and interaction, and yes, there's nothing wrong with, I've heard of people who, some people, I'm not technically a runner. I like running that's incorporated into a sport, but there's people that they'll put on headphones, or maybe they won't or something, and they do some of their best learning, studying, and thinking while they are actively moving, whether it's going for a run, going for a walk, going for a bike ride. Deborah, who talked to me and sent me here to talk to all of you today. Deborah, every Sunday goes swimming. She swims a mile every Sunday. And I absolutely guarantee you, because she's told me, yes, she gets so much from that time every Sunday. That's her time. She's swimming, but I guarantee it has so many benefits, both mentally and physically and otherwise. And that's absolutely why she does it. And for so many people, I encourage, get out, get moving, get that fresh air that we've talked about earlier. So yes, so those are our 3 big ones there.
Lucas, will you close out?
Yes.
Sorry. That's me.
Set up and take down now. Yes, we need to take something down. I'm just kidding.
No, yes.
Not necessary. All right. And then where do we get to?
And then the Kurzweil, I put it in the chat. It's spelled Kurzweil. And it's under the arapaho.libguides.com /accessibility. If you need that, let me know in an email and I'll get that sent to you as well.
Absolutely.
What is that for?
For auditory learners, if you're wanting something read to you as opposed to you having to read through it, that's something that can help you with that. And there's 2 laptops and a PC, like a desktop computer, in the library that already has that program on it if you wanted to use it.
Like I said, very cool. And I do think it's so cool. A lot of these cool tricks and tools that have been made available to people and students and everyone that didn't exist.
Correct.
Especially even, 10, 20 years ago. And I do, I'm all about, giving people different tools, but I absolutely love when there is the realization of, why don't we do this, especially with all of the technology and stuff that we now have. that people have figured out ways to make so much more available, because it's helping so many more people be and to become the best versions of themselves. And so they aren't kind of held back by certain just limitations, or the fact that we don't all learn and do things the same way. And it's absolutely okay to have the tools and techniques that work best for us. And that's the most important thing as a person. Figure out who you are and what works best for you, and take advantage of that. And the things that you have the most challenges with, it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means you need to put in a little more time, a little more work, and to use more resources, and then you can conquer it. Like, there's not many things that are impossible. The biggest one, and my little brother growing up tried it, is I truly don't believe that a human in our lifetime or any will learn to actually fly. My little brother growing up, he wanted to be, and he was adamant, because we just had Halloween. So one year, who was he going to be for Halloween? Duperman. Yes, because when you're younger, you can't say things right. And no joke, he was convinced that he could fly. And he went bouncing on the couch and just took off, went airborne. He'll tell you he flew, at least for a couple seconds. But then he cracked his forehead on an end table, had to get taken to the clinic, the ER, the something. But I do, like, yeah. But one of the things that is cool about that, and what I do love about kids especially, is they are like, they truly see anything as possible. And as a person, regardless of your age, don't lose that. Like, yes, as we grow up, we become more aware of things and more concerned of certain things, but don't be afraid to be like, I want to do that. I can do that, because you can do anything that you set your mind, energy, and effort on. And then the last big thing I have for you today, and I'll hand out paperwork for the other things we talked about, but the last thing I have is something that I came up myself from my own time, my own experiences. And for those here in person, we'll hand you out a copy. And for those that are online, we'll make sure Deborah can share all these documents with you guys. But I came up with some helpful study strategies by myself, Lucas Hexmaker. And it's broken up into 3 important categories. We already touched on today. Organization, it's a big deal. Having organization in what you do helps with so many things. And the big things I've highlighted on here: put all important due dates, assignments, and tests into your calendar, as well as a checklist. You can do this on a physical piece of paper. You can do it on a tablet, on a smartphone. Like I said, do what is best for you, even within these things. Have a specific folder, notebook, and so on for each class you're taking. Don't just throw everything together in one place. Separate it, organize it. Make sure that your study space, it doesn't always have to be the same space, but make sure it's clean and organized. This is a big one. This is having a plan, some forethought. Plan out each day and week with when and what you will be doing. I have my smartphone. I lay everything out on my digital calendar on there. What I have booked, what I have planned, and windows for everything. And it keeps me so organized in what I'm doing. And people are often like, how do you keep track of everything?
See, I have to write things down to feel that I'm like organized.
Yep.
I mean, too, I have
That's like, right.
Absolutely.
dots, right?
It's almost the kinesthetic learning, right? Like, you have to physically
Exactly.
do something to be able to say, like, it's done.
It is.
Yeah, I feel that. I
And
was that way with my calendar. If you guys want to see my academic calendar for my undergraduate, super colorful, it's all in my Google Calendar.
Yeah, just. I'm like, and then I can check it off.
Yep, I turn it green as soon as the assignment was turned in.
And this is a big one, because we talked earlier about active versus passive. a tie into that is, it is always better to be proactive and start working ahead. And this is not only in the classroom, but in life. You will feel so much better and be so much more relaxed about things when you make a plan and are proactive about things than just being like, oh, I'll get to it later, because I've heard it, but to this day, I will never believe it. But people have said it that, oh, I work better under pressure. I work better when it comes down to the wire. That's something people say, but there's no way that that is true. With a plan and with organization, you'll get so much more done, and you won't get rid of stress or anxiety, but you will keep it to a more minimal and manageable level. Okay, couple big ones for study tips. Read through your chapters ahead of time before you go to class. Okay, taking some quick notes and write down some questions so that as things are talked about in class, you're already aware in your mind of things that you feel good about. And if there's certain things you're like, I got a question, then you can right away get that hand or push that button for the virtual classes to ask a question when the teacher starts talking about it. After going over the material in class, return to the book and read over the important concepts mentioned in class. Teachers in most of their presentations are going to highlight important things. That's what you want to identify. Don't even try to spend the entire class writing so many notes that one, your hand is falling asleep, or you think it's going to fall off, you laugh. But I felt that way as a kid growing up, especially because I was left-handed and we used to write with actual lead pencils. And I would get done with class early as a kid. And just like this, I have some color here from the board, but my entire hand would be literally like black and blue. And one of the first times I came home, my mom's like, honey, what happened? I'm like, what? She looked at my hand and she's like, are you okay? It took 10 minutes until she showed. She's like, are you bruised? Are you this? I'm like, no. And then figuring out, it's like, I was right. And then we figured out it was just from so much writing, and because I'm left-handed, I wrote over everything I did. But yeah, you don't need to, it sounds crazy, but you don't need to write everything that is said. It's identifying what are the key terms and concepts. Because literally, if you sit there and are constantly writing, your brain and your memory isn't actually going to retain anything.
I heard it's one of the lazy methods of taking notes, but I print out the PowerPoint slides and write on the slide.
Yeah.
And it keeps.
Yeah. Good notes.
For writing everything they said.
Good notes, like I said, should be minimal. And like I said, I've had people come to me and they're like, it took me 5 hours to do notes for it. And I'm like, show me your book. And literally their notes were longer than the chapter. And I'm like, no, your notes should probably at most be about a quarter of what that is. A couple other big ones. After you take some notes and things, because when you first do it, sometimes it might be quick, it might be sloppy, but most importantly, and because it helps you remember and retain things, rewrite and organize your notes after the fact. And do that sooner rather than later. Because if you have notes from week 1 and then you get to week 4, 5, or 6, oh, we're getting near a test. Oh, I haven't looked at week 1's notes, and you look back, you're like, what is this? Like literally at least once a week, go through what you have, reorganize it, and put it somewhere on a clean page or digitally, whatever you want. You do what works for you. Create note cards, study sheets, templates. All those things are great tools. And if any of you are like, how do I do that? Come see myself or others. It's not rocket science. Does anyone here have a PhD? Probably not. But I think it's cool because my dad doesn't have a PhD, but he worked many years and retired from Lockheed Martin. And they do everything with space and aeronautics and some other cool things. Organize and coordinate study groups and sessions. And a group, guess what? A group can even just be 2 people, so it doesn't have to be, some people are like, oh, does it have to be like 8 people? No. It's so much better to do things with others than to try to do everything by yourself.
Navigate has a little thing where you can find study buddies.
Yes, you
That's
can.
been helpful.
Absolutely. But yeah, connect in your classes, whether they're in person or digitally, do that. I know for some people, that's a scary thing. Wait, talk to someone I don't already know. But really, most people, as I found out, they're so happy. Because yeah, when I started just reaching out to people in school and life, they're like, oh, thank God. I'm so glad that someone else, because everyone's more in that, I want to, but I'm afraid to. Just like people being afraid to raise their hand in class. And then everyone's so happy when someone does raise their hand and ask a question. Because multiple people in that classroom basically have that question or a similar one. Okay?
I'm also notorious for hearing those questions and then raising my hand. My undergraduate studies were fun.
And the last big study tip, utilize your teacher, tutors, students, faculty, all of the countless resources available to you. Okay, and then the final section, best ways to learn. Understand that there are many different learning styles. We touched on that today. Try out and identify what learning styles work for you. It is absolutely okay in life to try things. If you don't try, you'll never find out what works. And like we said earlier, sometimes you try something and it doesn't work, but at least you tried. And then you can try some other things, because once you find the things and the ways of learning and doing things that work for you, everything you do becomes so much more manageable and honestly easier. Our topic of our speech today, do not procrastinate or attempt to learn everything last minute. That is not a formula for success. And anyone who's, like I said, I work best under pressure doing things last minute. That to me is one of the biggest lies in the world, but it's more of an excuse, and it's, something happened, but at the end of the day, if you put things off too long, there is a price to pay, which means you have to throw things together last minute. So there's absolutely no way it'll be anywhere near the best work or product that you could have done. Realize that it takes at minimum 5 to 10 repetitions or more to learn something and retain new information. Okay. And finally, the best ways to learn are to, 1, ask questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions. 2, discuss a topic and concepts with others. Don't just keep everything to yourself with what you know or you think you know or what you don't know. Engage and interact with others. And finally, teach and explain content knowledge to family, friends, and classmates. One of the reasons that I am so comfortable, confident, and capable with things is I learned years ago to take sort of that teaching, coaching role, and anyone can do it. Yes, it's a little nervous at first. Wait, I'm going to be in charge of this room or this group or this team. But once you do, and you can start small just by being able to talk to another person. Then as you get, okay, great. And both of you do it. Then do it with a little bit bigger group. And before you know it, you'll be able to talk and teach and engage with others. And that is the best way to truly know. And it shows and it gives you constant practice with what you're doing. Like, can you imagine a doctor? Would a doctor succeed if they didn't basically practice the things they do? No. We were like, even once COVID hit, students who were in our nursing and PTA programs, do you think that they were told, you know what? we're gonna let you try to learn all this over a computer, through a digital no. Because everyone's like, absolutely not. No, but if you can physically talk and teach and demonstrate things, that truly shows that you know and understand it. And it is, because you can share that with any group or even just one other person, you've got it. And I do. That's one of the reasons when I returned to ACC, even I had nerves. Oh God, I haven't been a student in so long. But once I got back into the flow and this and that, naturally I started interacting with others. And naturally I started, hey, well, here's what we did. Why don't we do this? And then immediately a couple of my instructors are like, have you ever thought about tutoring and mentoring and this and that? I'm like, oh. They're like, well, you're doing it naturally. So, and ever since then, everything that I came back to school, and yes, there's all different degree paths and programs, and that's not what's important, but I won't hesitate to talk to and work with anyone on any subject or anything, because I know it's not only beneficial to them, and I'm so happy to help others, but it's always beneficial to me because I'm constantly staying involved and engaged with the topics and all these things that I do. And because as there's a saying out there that says, if you don't use it, you lose it. So yeah, be engaged, be involved, and don't procrastinate. That's all I have for today.
You can stop the recording. Linda and Rosa, if you have anything to add, you can add now. I've been watching the chat as well. Other than that, all I ask is that you guys complete that survey.